Thank you for joining for SpecTech's top 5 favorite video game consoles of all time. Today is the number 4 console, which was the first console that I ever put my own money into. I actually bought this system. This system is none other than the beloved PlayStation 2. This system released in the year 2000. The PlayStation 2 was the sequel to Sony's beloved PlayStation. The PlayStation 2 is the best-selling home console of all time, with over 150 million units. It also has one of the largest game libraries in that it has over 10,000 games for it. It had 2 controllers, 2 USB ports, and 2 memory card ports, a modem, and it ran DVD-ROMs. This was the first system to use DVDs, and it was even a DVD player. The PlayStation 2 actually popularized DVD players and the DVD format. It could also read audio CDs. There was an accessory to make the PlayStation 2 a 4-player system, but not many games really used that feature. The PlayStation 2 is really great. I mean, there are games on there that I still to this day enjoy and just put in and play. The reason why I wanted this system was when the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox were out, I kind of wanted the GameCube because Sega had resigned from making consoles and decided to be a third-party publisher, and they were putting a lot of games on the GameCube. So I kind of wanted to buy that. But the reason why I instead bought a PlayStation 2 was, number one, I was at a friend's house playing NBA Street, and I thought it was a really cool game. And also at Best Buy there was a demo of Dragon Ball Z Budokai. I was a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, and the PS2 was the only system that had this game. So I eventually went and just bought a PlayStation 2, and it's fantastic. I just really loved the PlayStation 2. I mean, it had some amazing games. The games for the PlayStation 2 were all over the place. I like to think of it as an experimental console because you had traditional games, you know, all different kind of shooters and action games. But then there were studios who took a chance and made things like Jak and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank or even God of War. You know, these are titles that now are everywhere, but they were just experimental and then were critically acclaimed and are now full-blown series. Another experimental title that everybody thought would not be good is Kingdom Hearts. The PlayStation 2 birthed Kingdom Hearts, and now it's all over the place and has a huge fan base, because honestly anyone who fantasized about Disney and Final Fantasy coming together were crazy, but it's a concept that worked. Now graphically the PlayStation 2 was not the powerhouse of that generation, but it really had some amazing CGI cutscenes. I remember I was blown away while playing Final Fantasy X with the huge detailed CGI cutscenes, and I really felt like I was watching a Pixar movie. The PlayStation 2, much like the PlayStation 1, did get a console redesign. So there was the first system was what people would call fat. It was very large. It could stand either vertically or horizontally. It later got a slim version in which the top of the system would open up and you would put the disc in instead of having a drawer slide out, much like a computer, a desktop computer or a laptop. The PlayStation 2 was my first outing into using any other system except Sega systems. As a kid, I was strictly a Sega person. I never had any Nintendo consoles, so the PlayStation 2 was the first system that I had besides a Sega console. And it opened up a whole new world for me, because not only did I get to play great games like Dragon Ball Z Budokai, Ratchet and Clank, God of War, but my favorite developer, Sega, was still making games, and they were coming out on the PlayStation 2. So it kind of opened me up, and I was able to experience everything. And I don't think if I had gotten the PlayStation 2, I probably wouldn't have bought any modern systems. I might have just stayed with my Sega systems. An interesting fact about the PlayStation 2 is that it actually single-handedly destroyed the Sega Dreamcast. Sega was the first person to put out a next-generation console at this time, and people were buying it. But once the rumors started spreading that Sony was going to release a second PlayStation, almost all sales of the Dreamcast halted. Sega would eventually resign from creating consoles and would instead create games for all the next-generation systems. And the PlayStation 2 also had an accessory called the PlayStation Eye, which is sort of like the prototype or the first generation of Xbox Kinect, in that it was a camera that would follow your body and you would interact with the game somehow with your hands or feet or your actual whole body. The PlayStation Eye was later reworked on the PlayStation 3 for PlayStation Move and will now be a part of the PlayStation 4. Well, that's it for this time, folks. Next time we'll get to my number 3 favorite console.